Welcome to Creating Flow, the podcast where I, Joni Francisco, hope to empower women, helpers, and healers to unblock their energy and unlock their power. We are tackling that tough reality that many in the healing professions often sacrifice their well-being in the pursuit of helping others. Not only do I think this is just plain wrong, it ends up draining your vitality and diminishing your ability to serve. I've experienced this struggle firsthand and emerged with the insights and the strategies to break this cycle. That's why each week we explore practical methods not only to replenish your energy, but to cultivate abundance in your life. You'll gain actionable steps to fill your cup first, ensuring you can overflow with energy and serve others without burning out. Let me ask you, if your inner world were a garden, what would it look like? Would it be lush and thriving, filled with beautiful blooms and vibrant plants? Or would it feel overgrown, barren, or neglected in certain areas? We are going to dive into this today, how you can cultivate your inner garden to produce the outer life you want. But first, I invite you to the Abundance and Flow community and school, where you will find free, awesome AF trainings, and where we are building a community of other helpers ready to have more abundance and flow in their lives. Let's join together towards freedom in life, health, and business. The link to join is in the show notes, and I hope to see you there. What if I told you that you are the gardener of your life? Your inner garden reflects your health, your relationships, your business, and the energy you bring into the world. It's not someone else's responsibility. It is yours to tend. But don't worry, gardening is a practice, and it includes consistency, and it's about flow and intention and love. And today, I will guide you through the process of cultivating your inner garden so it can thrive. Together, we'll clear the weeds, prepare the soil, and plant the seeds of what you truly want to grow. When you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed in life, the invitation is always to look inside, right? You may feel stuck in the patterns of stress, scarcity, disconnection. You may want this change, but it feels like you're chasing your tail. You are putting the strategies into place, but it seems like you just can't get ahead. Whether this is of a health condition, a business issue, or satisfaction in your relationships. But the truth is, this garden, until intentionally cultivated, may be full of emotional and mental clutter. It may have weeds like fear, doubt, old habits and patterns, and they're taking up the space and they're choking out any new seeds you try to plant. They're choking out the potential for that joy, that abundance, that healing. And we talk about so within, so without. This is really the law of correspondence. And it's that our inner world is producing our outer world. The world we see reflects our inner beliefs. So if your inner world or your inner garden is neglected or overrun with weeds, that's what the outer world will mirror back to you. And if we look at the law of flow, it really teaches us that energy moves into spaces that are open and aligned. And so if your inner world is cluttered or the weeds in there, and I'm going to get to what weeds are here in a minute, there's no room, again, for that healing or for the abundance or for those miracles to take root. And I get you. Like, this is an ongoing process. And I know what it looks like to have an inner garden that feels out of control. And it still crops up for me, right? I still have to tend to my garden. I allowed fear, limiting beliefs, misaligned commitments to take up space in my life. My inner garden wasn't thriving because I wasn't tending to it. And I think, as many of you can relate to as helpers and healers, our gardens often tend to hit the back burner, right? And there's many reasons for this. We just get busy, we lose our intentions, or we come to those places in life where it's easier to look outside right? What's going on with us, and look to the outside and how we can be valuable and help other people fix their gardens, right? It's really common in the healing professions to spend all of our energy and all of our capacity to help other people. And that seems altruistic, but it also hurts our energy, right? It prohibits us from gaining the strength that we need. It keeps us small. It keeps us from healing. It leads to burnout on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. So the invitation is to bring your focus back to yourself. You'll hear me say this time and time again. It's really about looking at filling your own cup. And when I started to tend to my garden, it doesn't always feel better at first because you got to do some work, right? We got to pull out those weeds. And those weeds have probably been in there for a long time. And we've got to nourish the soil, and we've got to plant the right seeds. And that's where learning the energetic principles, reconnecting for myself spiritually through universal law and source and God, and now a student of A Course in Miracles. And then I dug real deep into identifying the limiting beliefs within myself and just how they exist in other people as well. How that subconscious works for me, for others, for my clients, and how we can reprogram that subconscious with new beliefs. And I incorporated this with what I knew about the physical body, the nutritional therapy, the physical therapy, and lifestyle, and began to look at the physical body again as a messenger. Then I was able to get new results. And this is true for everyone. If we can take on that observer hat, if we can listen to the messages that the body is sending, then we can change that. We can heal that, and we can get new results. Using these tools really taught me how to clear the weeds, how to nurture my subconscious, and plant seeds that aligned with my purpose. And now, as a holistic healer and an intuitive coach, I've helped other women helpers and healers like you do the same. I have seen the transformation that happens when we become those intentional gardeners of our inner world, when we're able to put on that observer hat, when we're able to lose the importance of being right or that holding on to the story. I'm here today to guide you on this journey, and I'm also available as a coach and a healer so that you can really create that life that you truly desire. So when we talk about cultivating our garden, we're going to divide this up into 3 easy steps. Well, they're easy to understand. They're easy to put into our brain, right? Into that logic piece of us. Some of the steps might be harder. Some of the weeds might be stronger, right? But the first one is to really clear the weeds. We're going to release what no longer serves you. These weeds that we're talking about in this inner garden, they're the limiting beliefs. There are negative emotions. There are experiences, our habits, our patterns that no longer align with your growth. And creating space by clearing them allows for new possibility. Something that may surprise you if you haven't been doing this work is the attachment that forms to the stories of our past. And when we form these attachments, we are not able to allow ourselves the future that we desire. We must let go of the old story in order to move into the new story. And what happens in these stories is that we stay the victim. We stay in the experience as it happened to us, not for us. And if we can remember on a soul level that we came here, we signed the contracts, we signed up for this, no matter how traumatic and how intense the experiences were. And some of them were fun, and some of them were happy, and some of them we felt like we were on top of the world, right? We can't change those stories. They happened exactly as they needed to. They happened exactly as we asked for them, which is really hard sometimes to hold because some of the stuff that we've experienced doesn't feel so godly, loving, like it came from source, right? But in our mission to up-level We need to heal these parts of us, and we will have the experience that help us do that. Again, we have to be able to see these experiences differently. We have to move out of the victim mindset. And that is the part about being the creator of your life, being the tender of your garden, being the creator or the gardener, right? And when I'm with my clients, we're having these experiences and I am leading them and guiding them to perhaps see these old stories in a different way. I really want them to know, and I want you to know, right, that it doesn't negate your experience. It doesn't invalidate your feelings. It doesn't change how these people were or how you were in the situation. You just give yourself permission to see it differently so that you can take back your power. You're going to give yourself permission to move forward differently in lieu of a different life. If you keep telling the same story, you're going to keep having the same outcome. So the invitation here is to ask yourself, what beliefs, habits, relationships are taking up space in your life, but not serving you? And this isn't like a waiter serving you the right drink, right? This is not filling your cup. This is not contributing to the fluid in your vase so you can overflow. And this may be for a time. You may be able to take time to go inside, but first just identify the things that are draining you. Another question you can look at here is what emotions like guilt or fear, shame, judgment are you ready to release? And what are you able to forgive? Forgiveness for ourselves and the way we've shown up, forgiveness for others. And forgiveness is a hot topic, right? Again, it's not to invalidate, it's to untether, to release the cords, to release those threads so that we can clear these weeds. I talked about your garden already being full. We need to create that space, right? There's this principle, law of nature, that nature abhors a vacuum. And we have this container, we have this space, we have this capacity. And if it's full of all of this old stuff, whether this from this lifetime, other lifetimes, however you believe, you won't be able to put new stuff in, right? But if you let go of what no longer serves you, then you create room for what is in your highest good, for what is in the life that you are craving. So the next step is really preparing the soil. We're going to nurture, we're going to nourish. And this has a lot to do with the subconscious, right? Because we're going to really nourish, we're going to fill it up with love so that our new seeds can grow well. Some ways to enrich your soil are by self-care. And I know that's all the rage right now, but it's super important and it has been neglected across the board, but I especially see it in women, helpers, and healers. Like you're just giving so much of yourself and it feels like you're out doing the right thing. But this will lead to burnout if you're not able to fill your cup first, right? You need to put on that oxygen mask. I know we all, the first time as mothers, we hear that on the airplane and we cringe, right? We're like, we would put it on our kids first. But if you don't put your oxygen mask on, you're no good to anybody because you're going to not be able to help anyone else. So what do we need, right? The body. The body needs sleep. The body needs nutrients. It needs to be nourished. It needs water. It needs space. It needs space to rest. It needs space to move. It needs space to have healing happen within the body. We invite in those emotions of joy and pleasure and love that really nourish us, really fill our cup. And that includes relationships and connection to self, to source, to others. This invitation to be the observer, right? So that we can let go of that judgment and we can just open up our space, open our garden, nourish that soil, and to nourish our mind, right? That meditation practice, that gratitude practice, ownership of our mind, so that we do take responsibility and ownership of our experiences so that we can turn those around. We're going to be reprogramming those beliefs that you pulled out and make them new beliefs that actually nourish us. So if you were able to pull out that weed per se that you don't deserve to take time for yourself, you can put a new belief in that nourishing myself is the most important thing I can do if I want to show up and serve others. We really want to build this healthy environment, this healthy soil to create a strong foundation for the growth of these seeds. And these seeds, they're going to look like the intentions and the goals that you want to cultivate in your life, whether that's health, meaningful relationships, a thriving business. The invitation is to be clear. We're going to focus on the intentions that we really want. When we're in survival or living unintentionally, which is, that it's really part of this collective culture that we have now. We do a lot of Facebook scrolling, Instagram scrolling, vegging out to Netflix, and these things aren't inherently bad, right? But if we are not careful of what our energy is going, if we're watching the news on the TV, that creates more stress in our nervous system. It's like putting things in the soil that won't help the seeds grow, right? If we're the same on Facebook or Instagram, if we're looking at things that aren't nourishing us, and you'll know if you're doing that by what is in your feed, right? Because there is a algorithm that happens. So if you look at yours and it isn't things that nourish your soul, then you've been looking at things that don't nourish you. And that's why it's important for our nervous system as part of that soil, right? And we need to be able to be in safety, and we need to be able to be in that observer, and we need to feel supported. And so we need to be intentional with the seeds that we are planting. We need to be very clear. We need to focus on our purpose and do this so that the language that you start to use points to what you want, not towards what you don't want. So instead of saying something like, I don't want to be stressed, you may choose, I create peace and flow in my life. That's the seed you're planting, peace and flow in your life. Instead of saying something like, I need more clients, you may say, I attract aligned opportunities with ease. I'm planting opportunities. These seeds are opportunities. What are some other seeds that we may look at planting, right? New beliefs, talked about that already. Really focusing on the beliefs that are going to get you to the place you want to be. We're going to plant intentions on who we need to be, on who we are becoming, right? We're going to plant opportunities. We're going to plant the feelings that we want to fill up with on the inside. We're going to plant seeds of love. We're going to plant seeds of authenticity. We're going to plant seeds of self-confidence. Later in this episode, I'm going to take you through a little meditation that will help you identify some of these things that you need in your garden, the new seeds. So we've planted our garden. Now our job is to tend it, right? We're going to take care of it with care and consistency. We're going to look for those new weeds, which are probably look a lot like the old weeds, because most of the time when we're going for growth or we're up leveling, the same weed, the same belief, the same core wound will pop up. And we just remind ourselves, oh, thanks for reminding me about this. I'm no longer available for that, right? And you clear them. Pull out those weeds as they come up when they're tiny, instead of the big long roots that they may have had before. We're going to water those seeds with love and affirmation and taking intentional, inspired action is also going to be part of this tending to your garden. We're going to focus on tending what is yours. So this is another trap as helpers and healers. I alluded to this earlier that we fall into is we start to tend other people's gardens, right? And even as a healer or a helper, it is our responsibility to help guide people, to help people shine the light on the weeds, shine the light on the soil, how they can prepare it, how they can make it more nourished for them, and shine the light on possible seeds. But it is the client's responsibility to actually tend their own garden. If you're tending it for them, they don't get to make a garden that's theirs. You're making them a garden you think that is for them, right? So it's very important we just bring our focus back into our garden. You might even imagine having some kind of perimeter around it, maybe a fence, so that you remember what it is yours to tend. And I said this earlier too, but I think it is good to repeat. When you find yourself looking to those other gardens to weed and give some fertilizer over here, is to make sure you've tended yours first. Because this is a huge distraction for us, right? It is a way to not look at what's going on inside of us, is to tend to the stuff outside of us. However, we're never going to get the result that we're looking for. This world is never going to look the way we want it if we continue to tend other people's gardens and not our own. Or the invitation really there is to not be in a rush. And if you're like me, once I get excited about something, I just want it right now, right? Once I finally make up my mind, kind of tells you something about me. I do sometimes think about decisions longer than I need to, but once I do make up my mind, I just want a result right now. And again, it's a practice. I've been working through this, understanding the law of rhythm and divine timing, but we don't need to rush. We may need to create space so that we can spend more time tending to that garden. Growth takes time. And the seed cycle, it's a cycle, and it's planted and it grows, and then it creates more seeds, and then it grows. And so we plant that seed, and then we trust that it will grow. And we may think about this or something better concept. Sometimes when we are in these initial stages of manifesting, we are still in ego body instead of in this more like source love space. And I ask you to be specific, and I ask you to be clear. I also ask that you really try to be in that space, the space of source space, when you are thinking of the things and the seeds that you want to plant. So why does this matter? I talked about a bit at the beginning about what's happening in our inner world is reflecting in our outer world. So if we're stuck, if we're having chaos, if we're having clutter, if we are procrastinating, if there seems to be a lot of resistance, or things just aren't going your way, or there is no flow or ease, when you start to tend to your inner garden, then your outer world will transform. It'll transform in your health. You'll have more energy, more vitality, more balance. You'll actually be able to heal whatever the issues are going inside of you. You'll attract these deeper connections and learn to release those that do not serve you or that drain your energy. And in business, you may be able to move from this hustle and this struggle to more inspired action and aligned growth. And this will really lead you into abundance and impact. When we look at the law of flow, this is really, again, that energy is always moving, right? And when our inner garden is thriving, Abundance will flow naturally into every area of your life. And what happens if you don't tend to your garden? And again, this really leads to burnout, right? This leads to unhappiness. This leads to disappointment. This leads to falling back in that trap of things are happening to you instead of for you. There is this certain amount of space we need to hold to know that we are the creator of our life and that things don't happen to us unless we are creating them. And I know it's a bit of a mind trip there, but if you leave these weeds unchecked, they're going to overgrow, right? You're not going to be able to plant any new seeds. So your fears, your doubts, your misalignment inside will continue to crowd out that space for joy, for healing, for those miracles. You will remain stuck in the patterns you are in, the patterns of scarcity, the patterns of overwhelm, that feeling of being disconnected from your true potential and from others. That's why it's so, so important for you to tend to your garden. Take that time to tend to you first. There's been something really on my heart for podcasting, and it's really to incorporate more of these moments of now. And I'm going to start including these in our podcast. So just know that your imagination can run with you while you're walking, while you're driving, while you're doing the things, cleaning your house, all the things people do while they're listening to podcasts, working out. And perhaps if you allow this to work while you are doing those things, you will get some benefit. But perhaps I invite you to take the time to come back, earmark this time in the episode, and come back and do this when you can close your eyes, when you could really connect, or just take a minute now, right? But if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. So I will invite you into this meditation. It will only be a few minutes. And as your eyes close, I invite you to bring your attention into your breath. You don't need to change anything. You just need to feel it come in and out of your body. Perhaps it's cool on the inhale through your nose. Perhaps it's warm as you exhale through your mouth. And just take your time and just breathe a few breaths. And as you turn inward to your inner garden, I invite you to bring in a vision of this inner garden. It's lush, it's vibrant, it's full of life. Perhaps it's next to water. Perhaps there's fountains inside. Maybe there's a fence to remind you of where to tend. And perhaps there's some form of a statue for protection. To remind yourself you're safe as you're digging up all of these past weeds, as you're preparing the soil and as you're planting new seeds. And then just take a look around. What do you see in your garden? Is there anything that you see that looks overgrown? Perhaps there's some weeds that symbolize the fear in your life. You can just pull them out. Perhaps there's some that represent scarcity. Perhaps there's some that represent those limiting beliefs that you're not good enough. What am I doing? How come things aren't working out for me? My body won't heal. I don't belong. I'm not loved. I've been kicked out of the tribe. I have to show up in a certain way in order to belong. And just looking around for any of those weeds. I don't have time. I'm not a good mom. I can't be both a good mom and a good business owner. Looking around and just pulling any of the weeds you see. And now as you're clearing spaces, you're going to be looking at the soil. What is it that soil needs? Does that soil need some nutrients? Does that soil need some water? Does that soil need some sleep? The soil is your inner terrain. And as you take a look around, a few more breaths, the answers will come to you what that soil needs. We're not doing the whole garden. We're just doing a little place, a little piece. And now we're going to look at the seeds that we can plant. You're going to plant a seed of a new belief. The more I take care of myself, the better I am able to show up and serve. Perhaps we're going to put up another new seed, another new belief. The more time I spend on building my garden, the faster the tasks get completed for my business. Perhaps we'll plant another seed of authenticity. I really only need to show up as me, as I was created. Knowing that this will increase your energy that you've been spending creating this persona and holding this mask. Just you, your authentic self. That's the new seed. Perhaps the next one is self-confidence to show up in that authentic self of yours. Perhaps the next seed is love. Perhaps the next seed is flow. And as you finish for this minute, just look at what you've planted. And in a minute, you've cleared a space in your garden. You've planted a seed that's going to create new results in your life. And this reminder that this isn't a dream. This really is the natural outcome that is available to you. If you're able to tend your garden with intention and love, you will have new results on the outside as you change your inner terrain. Now I invite you back to your breath, knowing you can revisit this garden and the invitation to do it frequently throughout the day as you're building a new garden. Just bringing your awareness to your breath, Just notice how it feels now in your body to inhale and exhale. And perhaps just this little bit of tending has created some peace, some space, and hopefully a new perception on how you can move forward and to find new results in your outer life. You're always welcome to stay here as we finish this podcast. However, if you are ready to open your eyes, open your eyes. So as you move forward, I will ask you, what does your inner garden look like today? Are there weeds you need to clear? Is your soil ready to nourish growth? Are you planting the seeds of what you truly want to cultivate? And as we did in the meditation, I invite you, implore you to take just one step today, right? Clear one weed, enrich your soil, or plant a new seed. And if you were stuck in the meditation, or you feel stuck being able to see your weeds or the things that could nourish your soil or your body, or if you need to know what new seeds might help you produce what results, I invite you to a free 20-minute call with me. And that link will also be in the show notes. And I just love to show up in that way and just bring some clarity and some focus to people moving forward. And in that call, we may discuss how to work with me and what that looks like. That'll be totally up to you, as it is your free session. Now, a reminder that when you tend your inner garden, you create a life that blooms. And to you listening, I truly appreciate you spending this time with me. And I am cheering you on as you take action in reclaiming your energy. I hope you tune in next week as we continue to explore. And always, much love and light to you. Until next time. So amazing. You've reached the end of another episode of Creating Flow. And I want you to know I appreciate your presence and to remind you, knowledge is powerful, but taking action is transformative. I invite you to take the next step to activate your full potential today by scheduling a complimentary 15-minute session with me. A no-obligation chat to identify the messages your body is sending you and how I can not only help you understand these messages, but teach you how to heal your body in order to have an abundance of health and energy in your life and business. Visit the link in the show notes to book a call, and I'll see you next week.